This object killed 2 men. How do you kill someone without exploding? Los Alamos, 1945. A plutonium experiment with no smoke, no fire, and no blast. They called it the Demon Core, and it never left the lab. It weighed 6.2 kilograms, a plutonium-gallium alloy sphere. The plutonium, an artificial element bred in nuclear reactors, was fissile, its atoms ready to split apart, releasing tremendous energy. But plutonium is also notoriously unstable. To tame its chaotic phase behavior, a small amount of gallium was added, creating an alloy engineered for a singular purpose. The sphere was designed for precise experiments, a tool to explore the very edge of a chain reaction. This state, known as criticality, is where each fission event causes exactly one more, creating a self-sustaining nuclear fire. The goal was to measure how different materials, known as reflectors, could bounce stray neutrons back into the core, pushing it closer to that critical threshold without crossing it. It was built as a third atomic bomb core, a weapon of last resort for World War II. But before it could be deployed, Japan surrendered. The war was over. The core was now a relic, its intended mission obsolete. But it wasn't idle. In the tense, secretive post-war environment of Los Alamos, it was repurposed. It became a vital instrument for radiation experiments, a way for scientists to physically probe the razor-thin margin between a controlled state and a lethal, supercritical burst. They needed to know exactly how close the core could be pushed to the edge and safely return. August 21st, 1945. In the quiet of a Los Alamos laboratory, physicist Harry Daghlian was working late and alone. On a steel table before him sat a 6.2 kilogram sphere of plutonium-gallium alloy, an object that would later be known as the Demon Core. His task was a delicate one, a hands-on criticality experiment. He was carefully building a neutron reflector, stacking heavy tungsten carbide bricks around the plutonium core. These bricks acted like mirrors for neutrons, bouncing any that escaped the sphere's surface back into the fissile material. With each brick he placed, the assembly crept closer to criticality, the precise point where the nuclear chain reaction would become self-sustaining. A neutron counter in the room ticked audibly, its clicks accelerating with every addition. The rising count rate was a direct measure of the invisible radiation filling the space around him. He was nearing the edge. Then, as he moved the final brick into position, it slipped. The brick fell directly onto the core, closing the reflective shell. In an instant, the assembly went supercritical. A silent, brilliant blue flash filled his vision as the air itself ionized. Daghlian reacted instinctively, knocking the bricks away to halt the runaway reaction. But it was too late. He had absorbed a massive, fatal dose of neutron and gamma radiation. The dose could not be seen or felt, only calculated. His body began its clinical decline into acute radiation syndrome. His bone marrow failed. His internal systems collapsed. He died 25 days later. He died. May 21st, 1946. 9 months after the first death, physicist Louis Slotin prepared to demonstrate a criticality experiment. In the room, 7 observers watched as he worked with the same plutonium sphere, now encased in 2 beryllium hemispheres. Beryllium is an even more effective neutron reflector than tungsten carbide. The procedure was so notoriously dangerous it had a nickname: tickling the dragon's tail. It meant bringing a nuclear core so close to the brink of a chain reaction that the smallest error invited a lethal burst of energy. Slotin's tool of choice was a simple flathead screwdriver, used to maintain a narrow gap between the 2 halves of the beryllium shell. It was not a sanctioned piece of equipment, but it was familiar, fast, and offered a tactile sense of control. With each millimeter the gap closed, more neutrons were reflected back into the core, driving the assembly closer to criticality. The hum of equipment filled the tense silence, punctuated by the accelerating clicks of a neutron counter. Radiation levels climbed steadily. Then it slipped. The hemispheres snapped shut. The assembly went supercritical. A blue flash of ionized air filled the room. Slotin reacted instantly, tearing the top hemisphere away with his bare hands. He stopped the excursion within seconds, but his body had already absorbed a massive, fatal dose of neutron and gamma radiation. The others in the room received lower, but still significant doses, their exposure dictated by their distance and position relative to the core. He died 9 days later from acute radiation syndrome. He died. After the second accident, Los Alamos required remote handling for criticality work. The core was later melted down and its material reused. It never exploded.